welcome to Brand Buzz with me, Ankita Saxena, a show where we speak to the top brand managers about the changing consumer dynamics, the evolving brand strategies, and how they are reorienting themselves to the changing landscape to grow their brands. And Motilal Oswal is one such brand that's not just pivoted to the changing investor needs, but has also stayed relevant over the years as a trusted investment partner. And today I'm speaking to Sandeep, who's a group CMO of Motilal Oswal, about how they are speaking to the mature domestic investor as well as staying relevant to the eclectic Gen Z investor, tech as a differentiator in the wealth tech space, and much more on the brand legacy being taken forward. Hi Sandeep, welcome to Brand Buzz. Thank you so much for taking the time out and coming here.
Thank you for inviting me here. Pleasure to be with you.
Right off the bat, Mr. Walunj, it's been almost 8 months since you took reins of being the CMO of Motilal Oswal. It's a legacy brand, which it's a trusted investment partner for many, many years. And more than that, the campaigns that come out of the stable for Motilal Oswal, whether it is, think equity, think Motilal Oswal, or whether it's that the line of buy right and sit tight, which is now almost synonymous with the stock market. And of course, the very famous campaign that came out this year, the man from Motilal Oswal. What's in store for the next leg and what's on your agenda?
Right. So what is on my agenda is something really simple. How do we make the brand, refresh the brand, because there's quite a lot of fintechs, etc., who are hogging the place. There are also quite a lot of alternate investment opportunities like blockchain, etc., which is on the horizon. There are also other venues of equity investing or equity trading like options trading, etc. So in the melee of all of that, how does the brand continue to be, the pillar of, trust as well as relevance as well as differentiatedness and stuff. So how can it continue to be the lighthouse brand, even though the seas have now changed and situation has little changed. So that's really what is on the agenda. So specifically to repurpose the brand for the current reality. To refurbish whatever that needs to be refurbished, refreshed, and make it more relevant to the emerging generation of investors. So investors are also changing, markets are also changing, products are also changing. So how do you continue to be a lighthouse which is still respected for what it is?
Right. In fact, we'll touch upon all of these things that you mentioned. You mentioned the evolving space as far as the fintechs are concerned, coming and hogging the limelight, the mature audience, and now the more eclectic Gen Z investor. We'll talk about all of that. But first, we'll talk about the star campaign of the year. That was Man from Motilal Oswal. Tell us, what was the insight behind that? That generated a lot of buzz.
Yeah, the insight was very simply, or rather the objective was very simply to draw a bigger line next to all the frenzy in the market, which is about options trading, which is about fintechs and stuff like that. So we wanted to highlight the fact that while all of that is great, research is what you require before you invest, and for that you require right advisor, and therefore the campaign said that I do not give tips, only solid advice. So we wanted to highlight advice part of the brand because we have research, because we have advice, and that is something that differentiates us across the spectrum. So no one has either of these things, right? So therefore the man from Motilal Oswal needed to underline the space that we are an advisor first, research first, knowledge first kind of a brand. That was the objective. You asked about the results. The results have been fabulous because the brand went ahead and provided that advisory line. It said next time you invest, call us on 92345, 92345. So we got plethora of calls and from multiple people in multiple need states, right? So some people wanted an advice on what fund to invest in, etc. Some people wanted to cross-check their portfolio. Some people wanted to shift their investments to us from wherever they were not happy about. Most people wanted to understand financial terms. Some people wanted to get into the specifics of how to operate an account and so on and so forth. So overall, it was a campaign that took the brand forward, and also brought the investors close to us because we actually spoke to them one-on-one.
And also that provided you some sort of a metric or measurement metric also, because immediately you could know the conversion from the campaign, and because people were calling you back like you said, so you immediately had the feedback as well. Yeah, interesting. So let's talk about this audience, the mature domestic investor, and the maturity of Indian investor can be seen, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. The proof here is clearly in the numbers, that AMFI data that has been coming out for over a few months. We are sitting at record high levels for SIPs. 25,000 crore mark is where we are at. Equity inflows is at its 3-month high, despite the fact that the market was correcting between October to November. We had the FIIs selling. Despite that, the DIIs, or the Indian retail investor, also continued to invest in the Indian markets, which shows how mature Indian investors have become. How do you communicate to a mature Indian investor? Because now this is more than a level higher than just creating awareness.
So you use the word mature. I would use the word interested or passionate investors, right? So people would want to get into investing. People would want their money to go further. That's really the ambition. But not all of that is mature from the sense of understanding. If you define mature as somebody who's seen it and therefore is able to take wise decisions, most of these people aren't. So you also have very high SIP termination rates. So you start SIP, you get excited about it, but then a couple of bad months and you kind of then rethink about it and so on and so forth. So there is an excitement, but there is not much of wisdom for the large part of investors. We define or we classify investors into 3 kind of large buckets. The first bucket are really the mature investors who have seen a couple of cycles in the market and are therefore very clear about their investment goals and are building a diversified portfolio, have a good sense of asset allocation and so on and so forth, which are maybe about 10 or 15%. Then there is a very large middle where people are still experimenting. Where they would want to try out various asset classes, etc., etc. And there is also this novice investors who are coming into the market for the first time. They have basically, broadly speaking, have misunderstood this whole thing as a frenzy to double the money overnight kind of a thing. So there is a lot of demand for those kind of products, and they would then consider mutual funds boring, right? Because who likes 15% returns when you can get 40? Right. So there's a lot of education, a lot of bringing them to the right ways of investing, etc. That still needs to be done. So today, after years of efforts of marketeers and media partners, we have got a lot of people interested in the market, but most of them, unfortunately, are not well educated and therefore do not come with the right objective, right preparation into the market. So that's really how I will read it.
Okay, so while speaking of the investor, let's talk about the other segment of investors, the more eclectic segment, or the Gen Z. They are finding alternative investments also very fascinating, as you also mentioned, cryptocurrencies, bitcoins of the world. How do you speak to, or how do you initiate Gen Z, Gen Next into safer investment ideas of mutual funds, SIPs?
All right. So you used a very interesting word, safer investment ideas, and that's what it is. I mean, see, most of that happens through experience. Many times we say, okay, let the investor try out quite a few things. In fact, quite a lot of seasoned advisors, if you really ask them, how do you see the future of your business, and is fintech a competition? The answer you will get is that they're not, right? Because they are getting people excited, but then they are leaving them unfulfilled, right? Because if you go into investing without a plan, without a clarity in your mind that the inherent underlying is volatile, if you're not signed up for that volatility, you're going to get shocks, you're going to get disappointments, and sometimes it's prudent to wait for that disappointment. Education, of course, we try and provide, right? But then if somebody is hell-bent on trying his or her luck, right, there's another piece, right? When you're excited about markets and investing, you also feel that I'm going to be lucky. So typically when SEBI says that 93% of retail F&O investors lose money, most people that we speak to in that age bracket tell us that no, but I fall in the remaining 7%, right? So I'm not going to be one of those.
Very presumptuous.
That's very, very ambitious, etc. So most often you kind of wait for that person to realize, self-realization is really very, very critical, right? Because as Warren Buffett said, investing is simple but not easy. So they have to figure that out, that the not easy part, the depth of that, and then of course they end up doing it right. So this is one part. The second, very importantly, is, it's very easy for you and me to sit here and criticize that, people are coming in without preparation, etc. What have we done to give them, the right way of doing it? So therefore, Wealthline. So that was an initiative which said that, hey, you ask me any questions that you want, and let's speak one-on-one. Let's talk about your own, financial status. What's your earning? What are your responsibilities? What are your financial goals? How much can you invest? What is your current portfolio? What is it ought to be given these goals and your risk-taking ability, and so on and so forth. So I give you that kind of an advice. So those initiatives are few and far between. Right, so you can't even blame the new generation or people who are new to investing, because there is not even a helpline proper, except for the Wealthline of Motilal Oswal, where you can actually get, standardized, dependable, trustworthy advice. So there's a second part. So you provide those who are willing to, do it properly. You provide that, and the final part is make that more interesting. So how can you make the old and kind of, let's say, safe way of investing interesting? So that's where we are currently working on. How do we make the right way of investing exciting enough for these people to also consider that?
Right. Yeah. But, it's just making it interesting enough won't make the cut, because you have to be at the right platform also. Yeah. In that case, for Gen Z, it has to be digital, and in any case, it has to be digital now. You cannot not be, have a digital branding as a part of your brand. What have been your digital marketing strategies to cater to Gen Z, Gen Next? And also, in general, I think digital is now going to command a larger share, if not now, then soon enough, than television.
Yeah, so we already have the industry's largest social media presence. Right. We already create a lot of content which is designed for people who are first timers. So we've repurposed that. So that's what I said at the beginning of the conversation, that I need to, make the brand ready for today's realities. So we're doing that from an educational content perspective. There are a lot of collaborations that we do with influencers, who follow all of those SEBI guidelines, so that they can in turn take our word forward. We are also providing quite a lot of these avenues for them to come and interact with us. We are getting quite a lot of our researchers out on social media. So many of them run their own channels, and we're going to be adding more and more of those. The places or platforms on which some of these customers are there, we are trying to make our presence pretty strong, underlining that. We are revamping our entire digital presence, so all of our digital assets are as good as anyone else's, if not better. We are investing quite a lot in the generative AI and ML. We've hired somebody who is globally recognized as an AI expert to take some of those things forward. So the multiple initiatives are being taken for all the three segments of people.
Right. You spoke about AI and tech as an enabler. I have two-part questions to that. First is, how has AI and tech been an enabler for you? How have you been using or leveraging AI and tech in creating brand solutions for Motilal Oswal?
Yeah, so very simple answer to that, or the very obvious answer to that is the generative AI for creative development, right? So we use it for copy, the first draft of copy in most cases, from brand communication to corporate communication to internal communication is developed using generative AI. We use it for the static visuals. These days, quite a lot of good quality static visuals are coming out of that. We are also experimenting with AI for video production. Okay. So how can we get the educational videos out of AI? We are looking at AI for making the job of shooting videos like that simpler for our experts, right? So AI avatar of Ramdev Agrawal can churn out 1,000 videos a day potentially. Right. So we are exploring those possibilities without taking his time and bandwidth, to do all that. So that's one end of generative AI. The second very, very interesting use case is the personalized advice. right? So how can I look at your portfolio? How can I give you personalized advice? How can I do it at your time and convenience? And how can I make it very, very how do I say, specific to you?
Okay.
So those are the areas in which we are looking at, right? So AI advisory, as we call it, which is segment of one, which is how do I talk to one? So that's another area that we are looking at. Third very interesting area that we are looking at is this fake and fraud, right? So as the markets are scaling new heights, as you said, the fraudsters are also kind of right there to
scaling new heights,
benefit from it. So how do we leverage? So we're thinking of putting up an AI helpline or fake fraud detection helpline using AI. So you forward your message or you forward your communication, and we will be able to. It is still under development whether that is authentic or you should be careful, etc. So that's another use case. There are multiple use cases, from communication development to personalized advice that we are looking at.
All right. Now my second part of the question, as far as AI and tech is concerned, that's also become a very big differentiator as far as the wealth tech space is concerned. Now you mentioned how these new age fintech companies are coming in trying to hog all the limelight. Now while I would say that somewhere they are at an advantage as far as tech is concerned because they're more agile like that, a legacy brand like Motilal Oswal has years of experience, you have trust. How do you stack up against these new age tech companies?
One follows the other. As I keep saying, an AI is the delivery end of advice or delivery end of service, right? I can deliver something to you using AI in a far better fashion. But what about the content? Right? So what about the research? I need to first understand, the stocks, and I need to be able to have very high quality research, and then I need to understand your specific portfolio, and then I deliver that. So obviously we are therefore looking at it as the last mile. And we are investing a lot of money there to get it right. But we believe we are at a unique advantage of being an experts who are also, having a good amount
agile,
of absolutely.
Right. So what would be your vision for 2025, and what's in the roadmap ahead now that you've taken charge? And you're saying that your agenda is to reinvent the brand, be relevant to Gen Next and Gen Z, at the same time maintain the legacy of the branding that Motilal Oswal is.
Yeah, so relevant to all segments of investors.
Right.
So I am not, kind of lost the vision that,
the passionate investor.
Absolutely. The professional investors, the aware investors are also equally important to us. So how do we segment that better? How do we provide the right communication, right tools, right experience to all of those segments, and how do we use that, how do we do that using the best of the technology that is available right there. So we do it cheaply, we do it quickly, we do it in a more customized kind of fashion. So those are the things. So contemporize, as I said, refurbish, reinvent. Those are the pieces that we wish to do. Very specifically, we would like to emerge as a lighthouse for these new investors. Most of them are not well equipped, well advised. As I keep saying, they jump into this whole ocean head first without much of thinking, awareness, and not their fault because the social media, the ambitions, etc., all paints a very rosy picture. You open Instagram and there are 18 something people
kids talking about
giving
investing,
you 1000% returns and all of that. So you obviously want to be like them. So we would like to stand out as a lighthouse brand who's able to give them that right advice, give them that real wisdom and the benefit of our years of expertise, so that they could get it right. So that's really what we wish to do, and of course protect them from falling prey to fraudsters and all that. So those are the three things that we
right. Also tell us what are the current trends in the wealth tech space? What are you picking up from the investors and of course the new age tech companies also? What are they onto?
The biggest challenge actually is not tech related. It is human related, and that is experience. Right. So it is akin to you hailing a cab using your cab hailing app. All goes well till the time the cab arrives on time and takes you to a place and you are charged properly. But what happens when you have a grievance? You would know you are a customer, right? There's no one to talk to, right? So you feel left out, you know.
Been
you feel
there,
absolutely. So now imagine that multiplied by 1000x when it is money involved.
Money involved, yeah.
Right. So therefore, experience is actually the big thing which is left behind. You know, with this frenzy of trying to automate everything. Right. So that's the first part. The second part is research. Right. If you don't have your own research, right, if you do not, I mean, you haven't done it for years, right? So it's not that I learned research today and I will be able to be an expert tomorrow. I still would have to have seen cycles in the market, etc. So that expertise, that experience, the research, etc., is the second challenge that most of these, both the providers as well as the receivers face. So those are the two key things. The rest of it is actually personalization and all of that, which is even more critical. Right. So those are the 2-3 things that we keep in mind.
Right. Finally, Sandeep, what would be your advice to a young marketer who's watching the show perhaps? How does one navigate through this ever-changing and a dynamic marketing landscape, the different changing consumer needs? That's probably, it's so dynamic that it's changing. You have to have your ear to the ground every second of what's happening.
Yeah, so that is very obvious. You need to be very aware. You need to be very curious. You need to be always in the learning mindset because things are changing out there. Both technology as well as people, their aspirations, their surrounding situations, everything is changing. So you need to be extremely curious. That goes without saying, because without that you typically don't become a marketer.
Of course.
So typically you are pretty curious, and that's why you come into this field. But my very strong advice to anyone who is wanting to join this field is to first of all be sound in terms of your product knowledge and fundamentals, right? So because that is what is really going to be differentiating a long-term brand or a long-term communicator from somebody who's in there only for quick bucks. So in marketing itself, these days, quite a lot of performance marketeers are emerging, right? Which is basically putting the short end first, and many times at the cost of the long end. Right. So please,
the sales figures.
Absolutely. So please be very, very clear about the basics, the fundamentals of investing, be product expert, then obviously know your investor, be curious, etc., etc. And then the rest of it, kind of comes very naturally. The last bit of advice that I would tell is that invest a lot of time in learning the ropes of communication development, storytelling, as it is said. Increasingly, we are losing that art.
All right, Sandeep, that was a great set of advice to all the young emerging marketers. Thank you so much for taking the time out and coming to our studio and doing this for us.
Thank you so much for having me over. All the best.